Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eric Paxton. Today we're going to go over a little bit of something, a lesson learned by me in regards to this firearm here, which is the SAR USA B6. I'm going to go ahead and take the slide off because I've already got the pin out to show you one. Well, it's obviously not loaded because there's nothing in it. But here's the thing. I was doing a class and there's this little pin or little spring right there. You can see it where my flashlight's kind of shining. That, some people call it the trigger reset spring. Some people call it the rebound spring. You know, same name, different, or same part, different names. Well, what I did is when removing the trigger housing and everything, I removed all these parts in the rear and everything up front, and you can see that the trigger sets right here behind that spring, and the horseshoe piece you see going around there, that is the trigger bar. Well, right under there you can slightly see the circular portion at the top of the trigger where it touches the frame. That is the lonely pin that holds the trigger to the trigger bar. And I took it apart, did all the class video and stuff for it, put it back together, and did the trigger weights pulls a couple times, and it worked fine for the first couple. And then it started giving issues. And digging further into it, I was thinking, man, did I put the trigger spring in wrong? Did I break it? Did I bend it in some way that it caused it to slip out of place? I even went so far as to message the instructor for the course that I'm taking and asked, what tips, tricks, or knowledge could you tell me that might give me more insight into what could be causing this issue? And he was on board with what I was thinking, that it was probably the trigger spring or something. And I tried taking it out and putting it in a few times and putting it in the way the video lesson showed and doing it exact the same way every time. And it kept coming up with the same problem. The trigger would go to the rear and not reset to the front. Well, finally, I flipped the firearm over and I looked at the side of the trigger to see, okay, could it be rubbing? And that pin was protruding ever so slightly, maybe a 1/16 of an inch or less, but just enough to rub the side of the hole right here where you see the trigger coming through, because that pin sits right inside there. And what was happening is there was just enough friction that when I would pull the trigger to the rear, the trigger spring did not have the sufficient power to overcome the friction being caused by the pin sticking out to the side, thus causing the trigger to stay rearward and become a dead trigger without you forcefully sticking your finger down there and pushing it forward manually. So with resetting that pin back flush with both sides of the trigger, now you can see, we'll go ahead and bring the hammer back, that when you pull the trigger and let go, it pops back to the front, as it should, with the trigger being in the exact way that it has been before, with the trigger spring being in the same way that it's always been. That was the one thing causing the problem, and it was something so simple and so small, but yet so frustrating. So I guess the lesson or the knowledge that I'm trying to pass on and impart here is the fact that pay attention to the little stuff. The little parts of these make the biggest difference. If they're not exactly in the right spot like they're supposed to be, or they're slightly out of position, like the pin was, it could cause major issues down the road. So with that being said, now we have it reinstalled, we have it correctly put back into place, and we'll go ahead and put this slide back on. And it's just a simple little thing like that. The simple stuff makes the biggest of differences when it comes to a lot of this stuff. So, like I was saying, folks, just really be very attentive to when you put these back together that you're putting the parts back in the correct way, so you don't make yourself look like a fool like I did. I made myself look like a big fool, like I had no clue what I was doing. But I learned a lesson. I'm willing to admit that I made those mistakes and learn from it and move forward with it. Not being willing to admit you made mistakes and learn lessons is what keeps a person from growing and excelling in the gunsmithing world. So, with that being said, I appreciate you guys showing up tonight for this little bitty video we had, and we'll see you guys next time.